This is the Hustler's Corner.
Hello YouTube world, welcome to the Hustler's Corner. This is DJ Smooth straight out of Johannesburg, South Africa. And yes, we continue with chapter 2 of the Steve Biko, I Write What I Like, his personal memoirs, his writings. This is the 40th anniversary with the foreword by Njabule Ndebele, and also has got an introduction by his son, Unkosinati Biko, who said, yeah, may his thinking continue to be a part of the national dialogue as we continue to define ourselves. Check out the other videos. I've done the introduction, I've done the foreword, I've done the preface by Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and I've also done chapter 1. This is now chapter 2. In case you haven't had a chance to read this book, this is your opportunity to watch these videos. This is another book reading session. Let's get it started. By the way, quick one. I split them up into different chapters. I don't read the entire book with one long video like I did on my book, no. I split them up so everybody has got enough time to just watch a short video. Chapter 1, you can watch chapter 2 at your own time. All right, we're getting into chapter 2 now. The previous video was chapter 1, which was the biographical summary. Chapter 2, they say SASO, its role, its significance, and its future. In the early 1960s, there had been abortive attempts to found non-white student organizations. In 1961 and 1962, the African Students Association, the ASA, and the African Students Union of South Africa, the ASUSA, they were established. In Durban Students Union and the Cape Peninsula Students Union, which later merged to form the Progressive National Students Organization, were fanatically opposed to NUSAs initially. Yes, they were opposed to NUSAs initially. ASA and ASUSA were divided by ideological loyalties connected with ANC, the African National Congress, and the Pan-Africanist Congress, the PAC. None of these organizations survived. NUSAS was by no means a spent force on the black campuses, but the fact that its own power base was on white campuses. Wits, the University of Witwatersrand, Rhodes, the University of Cape Town, Natal, meant that it was virtually impossible for black students to attain leadership positions. Now remember, at the time, there were very less black students in some of these institutions. They were predominantly white dominated. Least of all, could NUSAS speak for non-white campuses? Though it often assumed that role. The formation of the University Christian Movement, the UCM, in 1967 gave blacks a greater chance of coming together. Its initial political respectability in the eyes of the black university college authorities gave it a chance to function on those campuses in a way impossible for NUSAS. At the UCM conference at Studenham in July 1968, about 40 blacks from all the main black centers of higher education in the Republic formed themselves into a caucus and agreed on the need for a nationally representative black students organization. The UNB group, the University of Natal Black, which of course included Steve Biko, was asked to continue investigations. As a result, a representative conference was held at Marion Hill, Natal in December 1968, where SASO was formed, to be officially inaugurated at Teflop in July 1969, where Steve Biko was elected president. This is Steve Biko's presidential address to the first National Formation School of SASO, which was held at University of Natal. The black section went towards Durban from the 1st until the 4th of December in 1969. Very few of the South African student organizations have elicited as mixed a response on their establishment as SASO seems to have done. It would seem that only the middle of the roaders have accepted SASO. Cries of shame were heard from the white students who have struggled for years to maintain interracial contact. From some of the black militants' point of view, SASO was far from the answer. It was still too amorphous to be of any real help. No one was sure of the real direction of SASO. Everybody expressed fears that SASO was a conformist organization. A few of the white students expressed fears that this was a sign to turn towards militancy. In the middle of it all was the SASO executive. Those people were called upon to make countless explanations on what this was all about. I am surprised that this had to be so. Not only was the move taken by the non-white students defensible, but it was a long overdue step. It seems sometimes that it is a crime for the non-white students to think for themselves. The idea of everything being done for the blacks is an old one, and all liberals take pride in it. But once the black students was to do things for themselves, suddenly they are regarded as becoming militant. Probably it would be of use at this stage to paraphrase the aims of SASO as an organization. These are, number one, to crystallize the needs and aspirations of non-white students and to seek to make known their grievances. Number two, where possible, to put into effect programs designed to meet the needs of the non-white students and to act on a collective basis in an effort to solve some of the problems which beset the centers individually. Number three, to heighten the degree of contact, not only amongst the non-white students, but also amongst these and the rest of the South African student population, to make the non-white students accepted on their own terms as an integral part of the South African student community. Number four, to establish a solid identity amongst the non-white students and to ensure that these students are always treated with the same dignity and respect that they deserve. Number five, to protect the interests of the member of centers and to act as a pressure group on all institutions and organizations for the benefit of the non-white students. Number six, to boost up the morale of the non-white students, to heighten their own confidence in themselves and to contribute largely to the direction of thought taken by the various institutions on social, political, and other current topics. The above six aims give in a nutshell the role of SASO as an organization. The fact that the whole ideology centers around non-white students as a group might make a few people to believe that the organization is racially inclined. Yet what SASO has done is simply to take stock of the present scene in the country and to realize that not unless the non-white students decide to lift themselves from the doldrums will they ever hope to get out of them. What we want is not black visibility, but real black participation. In other words, it does not help us to see several quiet black faces in a multiracial student gathering, which ultimately concentrates on what the white students believe are the needs for the black students. Because of our sheer bargaining power as an organization, we can manage in fact to bring about a more meaningful contact between the various color groups in the student world. The idea that SASO is a form of black NUSAS has been thrown around. Let it be known that SASO is not a national union and has never claimed to be one. Neither is SASO opposed to NUSAS as a national union. SASO accepts the principle that in any one country at any time, a national union must be open to all students in that country. And in our country, NUSAS is the national union and SASO accepts her fully as such and offers no competition in that direction. What SASO objects to is the dichotomy between principle and practice so apparent among members of that organization. While very few would like to criticize NUSA's policy and principles as they appear on paper, one tends to get worried at all hypocrisy practiced by the members of that organization. This serves to make the non-white members feel unaccepted and insulted in many instances. One may also add that the mere numbers fail to reflect a true picture of the South African scene. There shall always be white majority in the organization. This in itself does not matter except that where there is conflict of interest between the two color groups, the non-white always get off the poorer. These are some of the problems SASO looks into. We would not like to see the black centers being forced out of NUSAS by a swing to the right. Hence, it becomes our concern to exert our influence on the NUSAS where possible for the benefit of the non-white centers who are members of that organization. Another popular question is why SASO does not affiliate to NUSAS. SASO has a specific role to play, and it has been set up as the custodian of non-white interests. It can best serve this purpose by maintaining only functional relationships with other student organizations, but not structural ones. It is true that one of the reasons why SASO was formed was that organizations like NUSAS were the anathema at the university colleges. However, our decision not to affiliate to NUSAS arises out of the consideration of our role as an organization, in that we do not want to develop any structural relationships that may later interfere with our own effectiveness. SASO has met with a number of difficulties shortly after its inception. One, there is the chronic problem of not having enough financial resources. It does seem that this is where most non-white organizations fail. However, we hope to clear out of this difficulty soon, and we shall in the process need lots of help from the stronger centers. 2, traditional sectionalization still makes correspondence a very sluggish business with some centers. Most of the university colleges have a long history of isolation. Some of them have grabbed the chance to break free from their cocoons. A few still cling tenaciously to them. We have, for instance, been unable to get through to Belleville. We have difficulty in getting to a few other centers, but I'm happy to say that most centers realize the exciting possibilities of this meaningful form of communication. We hope in the time that we shall all be able to join in the happy community of those who share their problems. Number 3, the Boon of Authority also seems a real problem. Understandably, lots of students are afraid that any involvement with anybody beyond their own university might attract unwarranted attention, not only from local, but also from national authority. However, one hopes that there will be more examples of those courageous few who built up the SRC at places like Teflo, to the point where it had a lot of bargaining power with the rector. Number 4, non-acceptance by NUSAS sparked off lots of unwelcome problems. To many centers, accepting SASO became an automatic step towards withdrawing from NUSAS. Very few centers seem to be able to grasp the differences and focal points between the two organizations. 5, there's been considerable lack of support from the various SRCs for those involved in the organization. A lot of people, even from the affiliated centers, seem to regard themselves as observers. However, besides these problems, the executive has continued applying itself diligently towards setting a really solid foundation for the future. There is reason to believe that SASO will grow from strength to strength as more and more centers join. The future of SASO highly depends on a number of things. Personally, I believe that there will be a swing to the right on the white campuses. This will result in the death of NUSAS, or a change in that organization that will virtually exclude all non-white students. All sensible people will strive to delay the advent of that moment. I believe that SASO too should. But if the day when it shall come is inevitable, when it does come, SASO will shoulder the full responsibility of being the only student organization catering for the needs of the non-white students. And in all probability, SASO will be the only student organization still concerned about contact between various color groups. Lastly, I wish to call upon all student leaders at the non-white institutions to put their weight solidly behind SASO and to guarantee the continued existence of the organization, not only in the name, but also in effectiveness. This is a challenge to test the independence of the non-white student leaders, not only organizationally, but also ideologically. The fact that we have differences of approach should not cloud the issue. We have a responsibility not only to ourselves, but also to the society from which we spring. No one else will ever take the challenge up until we, of our own accord, accept the inevitable fact that ultimately the leadership of the non-white peoples in this country of South Africa rests with us. Thank you, YouTube family. That was chapter 2 of the Steve Biko I Write What I Like 40th anniversary edition. If you've missed the other videos, the introduction, the preface, the foreword, chapter 1, etc., go check out all the other videos. If you bumped into this video by accident, subscribe on the Hustlers Corner, share this video and let your friends know about the platform. This is for hustlers, where we get to share different interviews. We've got different content that will grow you, that will help you become a better hustler and a smart hustler. Thank you very much for tuning into this video where I was giving you guys chapter 2. The next video will be chapter 3 of Steve Biko's I Write What I Like.
This is the Hustlers Corner.